All right, guys, welcome to the Buff Show. Today we got a good episode with me and Mr. Austin Ure.
Yep.
You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Austin Yor.
Is it your
You can
or
say it
your?
either way. I hear it both ways,
Yeah.
but we pronounce it in the family Yor.
Your? Like Y-O-U-R.
Yeah. Yeah,
Y-O-U.
basically like you're saying Y-O-U-R. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though it's U-R-E.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I'll go by either. As long as it's
I-
not Ure or like you just botch it. But
So this is going to be a good one. This is
Yeah.
subject to seller securing replacement property, addendum to the purchase contract. So
yeah.
can you give us like a mile high view of what this addendum is, why you'd use it?
Yeah. So this is an addendum that you would use to protect a seller. One of the hardest parts of our job is coordinating the timing between selling a property, but also be able to get them into their new property and using the funds from the first to, buy that next one.
I think seller's biggest fear is like once a seller signs a purchase contract, there's no getting out of it.
Yeah.
Like you're bound by that agreement. Like
Yeah.
buyers have due diligence, financing and appraisal, all these contingencies, and sellers are like, okay, I signed. Now
Yeah.
like it's up to the buyer to
Yeah.
perform basically.
And,
And if they perform, it's great. But so anytime a seller's going to sell and they don't know where they're going to go, like it's scary for them to sign, accept something and be like, I have to be out by this day, even though I don't know where
right.
I'm going to go. Unless,
Boom. That's where this comes in.
yeah,
I don't even really know of many other ways a seller could get out of a contract other than this.
right.
And maybe that's a show for another day. You probably know a couple other tricks.
I'm trying
but
to think. I don't think I do.
It's pretty much like this or nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
So this is an amazing strategy for sellers because it basically says it's subject to the seller finding a replacement property, not only finding but securing a replacement property. So the reason we're doing this show is I currently have a deal where my clients are selling a house and they didn't know where they were going to go. So we threw this in there. We gave them 2 weeks to find a replacement property. We actually found it in like 3 days.
Hmm.
And so we put it under contract, and then all of their dates were just like going a little bit further out on their purchase dates than on their sell dates. So they're protected. And
Gotcha.
same with like their earnest money. And this is getting into the weeds a little bit, but like their earnest money on their sell was 10 grand and their earnest money on their buy is 5 grand. So even if the buyer backed out last minute, they would lose 5 grand, but they would get 10 grand from on their sell.
Gotcha.
So like I'm always trying to mirror it and protect my clients as much as
Yeah.
I can so that they have the best chance of success whether selling or buying.
Yeah.
And this is an amazing addendum for a seller to use because it basically gives them until, an agreed upon date for them to be like, oh, I didn't find anything. We're pulling the plug. We're out of here.
yeah.
What do you think? Do buyers like this addendum?
They shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because it only protects, again, it's advantageous for the seller. It protects the seller. Buyer, it's like, well, you might really want this house. It might fit perfectly for your family. You've been looking high and low.
Yeah.
But if your seller can't get into another one, that could all just be
Yeah.
wiped off.
So I think most buyers would be like, well, you want me to go under contract and pay for an inspection
Yeah.
and appraisal, like do all these things depending on the time frame of this. But I would be hesitant as a buyer to want to spend $500 to $1,000 on inspection fees
Yeah.
while not knowing if the seller is actually committed to selling. Versus if this isn't in the picture, the buyer can do their inspections, do everything, and then they know if they want the house, they could have it.
Right.
Basically.
Now
But-
this is not a get out of jail free card for sellers. They actually have to, you said, secure
Yeah.
a house. And what does
Well-
that by definition mean?
It's conditioned, let me read it, is
Okay.
conditioned upon the seller entering into a contract to purchase, lease, or replacement property and being satisfied with the replacement property's physical condition, appraised value, and or financing conditions by this deadline. And so it basically says that they have to find something and be satisfied. So it's a pretty broad thing. I mean,
Yeah.
you could be like, yeah. I mean, some sellers could just not look and be like, oh, we want out, you know.
Right.
Fortunately, like I was able to convey to the buyers, like, hey, my clients really want to sell. I think we found the house. They like this house. And so we're working hard to do that. But I think a few things you want to point out in here is it's subject to the seller finding a replacement property and being satisfied with the physical condition, appraised value, and financing conditions.
Yeah.
So it's like a due diligence, financing, and appraisal wrapped in
Yeah.
to a contract for a seller. So
That's going to be at least 3 weeks till you can
do all that.
do all of that.
Yeah.
Like the bank needs 3 weeks to
Yeah.
generally.
Well, but yeah, it depends. On this deal, my clients have their house paid off, and so they're just paying cash. And so we've talked
Gotcha.
about appraisals and all this. If we wanted to hire an independent appraisal, they could, but they're not too worried about all that. So we're just doing inspection. And so how I set it up with my clients, so I'm representing the sellers again, they're buying. The buyers on their house that they're selling are doing their inspection on Wednesday. And then we set up our inspection on the house that they're purchasing on Thursday. So I'm trying to like protect them because they know they want the house as long as the buyers purchase their house. So hopefully if the buyers get any cold feet we would know by Wednesday when they do their inspection so that we could cancel their inspection on the house they're trying to purchase on Thursday. Because I guess the only risk for the seller is what I'm saying here is that they have the risk of their appraisal, their inspection that they're paying for on the property that they're going to buy, and their buyer could still back out on the property that they're selling, which
Gotcha.
would then throw a wrench into this, right?
So they could potentially be throwing away $1,000 if you combine inspection and appraisal, about $1,000 to $1,200,
right?
Probably.
But it's well worth the risk because the alternative is not having this in there and then you're just like, well, I have to find something, which some buyers are like, or some sellers are okay with that because they know that no matter what, they're going to have to sell and they're okay with renting or they have like an alternative.
Move in with family.
Right. These clients didn't have that. So that's why we had to throw this in here. I will say for some buyers, this addendum could actually be like like the buyers could look at this and be like, hey, this isn't going to work for us. You know,
a deal killer.
Yeah, exactly. A deal killer. Because if the buyers are set on, like, they need to know within 30 days if they're going to buy and they want to go full speed on like verifying this is the right property, but the seller wants 21 days to find a replacement property and have flexibility to back out, you know, and I've worked with some buyers where they only have enough money saved to do like one inspection and one appraisal and like they don't have a ton of extra funds before they're dipping into their down payment funds and stuff like that.
They've got like one shot at this, one bolt in the chamber, and it's got to be a surefire thing. Yeah. And not to throw another wrench in it, but what if that buyer is selling a house of their own and they're using this clause, this addendum? Oh, yeah. And so now they're working on the time limit on that side of things. Yeah. But the house they're trying to buy has the sellers using this. And so this seller's trying to buy time for them. Right. It
gets messy.
It can, yeah.
It definitely can. This one, we call those trains where they're stacked. And you have like one client buying a house, but it's contingent upon their house selling, and it goes like 3 or 4 or 5, 6 deep. And those can get really scary because if that first domino doesn't happen, it kills it for everybody else down the line. I haven't used this addendum a whole lot. Most sellers have a place to go, and I would say use this like very last, last resort.
Because it makes your property a little bit less marketable, a little less desirable, I should say. Because buyers don't love seeing this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you want me to spend all this money and time and effort digging into your house to see if I want to buy it, but you are still not for sure you're going to sell. It's just like a weird. Yeah. It's like you're buying a car and you're like, sure, take it to the mechanic and see if you like it and spend the money into like seeing if it's a good car, and then I'll let you know if I want to sell, you know. It's kind of reverse, but there are situations where this is like very needed. And fortunately, in our current situation on this deal, it's working out great. But there are other times that I've mentioned this and the buyers are like, I don't know if I want to go through with that. So something to be aware of. Wanted to make a little video on kind of the pros and cons of this. So hopefully this has been helpful. And if you have any other questions, get with your agent on this, and we'll make sure to put the right formula in place for your situation. So,
Yeah. Thanks.